You're all set.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. Good morning, everybody. This is Tina Powell. We'll go ahead and get started this morning. Just a reminder, Jennifer did put the sign-in link in the chat. If you guys can go ahead and sign in there. We'll go ahead and call our January 911 Advisory Task Force meeting to order at 10:03. Roll call, Jennifer?
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to January's meeting. And we'll do roll call starting with CCI, Scott James, or alternates.
Here, it's Tina.
Thank you, Tina. CML, Jeremy Shepback. Okay, accessibility, Cheryl Garcia. Our at-large position is vacant, so BESP, Tim Kunkelman.
This is
Starting off with the game.
Carter.
Go ahead,
This is
Tressa.
Hey. So I'm not entirely sure. We're kind of transitioning, I believe, and I think I'm going to be popping in on Tim's spot, but I told him that I would be on this call.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good morning, and good morning to BESP Rep Sean Ward.
Miles, take the North Meadows Drive, Castle Rock Parkway exit.
Sean Ward. Okay, I like Jeff Winkleman.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Apologies, Sean Ward, Ryan Sagersi for Sean Ward here.
Thank you. We also have a vacant ILEC position. So next we have wireless rep Jenny Santana.
Good morning, this is Jenny.
Good morning. Wireless rep Ryan Hoke or Mary Graham alternate.
Hello, this is Ryan.
Good morning. CLEC VoIP Cindy Hartcup. Or alternates Tina Medevere or Josh Hemingway. CLEC VoIP Jay Slater or Erica Stevens.
This is Erica Stevens for Jay Slater, and apologies. Oh, I just saw the sign-in link. Never mind.
No problem. I'll put it up again when we're done calling roll. 911 rep Jody Chin. (911) rep Travis Freeman. (911) rep Cindy Castile. (911) rep Kimberly Colt. Or alternates Valerie Turner, Haley Pittman, or Tracy Oldmeyer.
Good morning, this is Haley Pittman for Lita today.
Good morning, Haley. 911 rep Jackie Reynolds.
Good morning, my name's Tanisha. I'm actually here for Jackie and Ron for AdCom.
Thank you very much. Good morning. 911 rep Beth Dobransky.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. 911 rep Valicia Librand or alternates.
Felicia's here.
Good morning, Valicia. 911 rep Jeff Irvin.
Jeff Irvin, JCECA is here.
Thank you. 911 rep Renee Henshaw or alternate Matt Toll.
Renee is here.
Good morning. 911 rep Deanie Shin. Or Shannon Brend.
I'm here. Jeannie.
Good morning, Deanie. 911 rep Andrew Dameron or Jody Slate alternate.
Good morning.
And I'm here as well.
Welcome back, Jody.
Thank you.
911 rep Jeff Streeter, actually Kyle Mickelson. Sorry about that.
And I am here.
Thank you. Good morning. 911 rep Tina Bonetta or alternate Scott Newman. 911 rep Kathy Ridley.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
I'm here.
Good morning. 911 rep Matt Gage or Alex Wall.
Both here.
Good morning. 911 rep Carl Stevens or Tom Holman.
Carl is here.
Good morning. 911 rep Patty West or Christine Mason.
Patty's on the line.
Good morning. And Tina, you have a quorum.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate it. Next item this morning, we're going to go ahead and do the approval of our minutes. Did anybody have any questions about the November meeting minutes as presented? Hearing no questions, I will entertain a motion to approve the November meeting minutes.
Jeff Winkleman.
Thank you, Jeff. And a second?
Jeff Irvin seconds.
Thank you, Jeff. Anyone opposed to the minutes? Okay, we will go ahead and show the November task force meeting minutes approved. We will have a presentation this morning. We're going to do it after the standing reports. So we'll go ahead and move on to those. Just a reminder, we don't read through all of the reports, but I will go through and call on each person just to see if you have any additional items to add or if anybody has any questions. We will go ahead and start with PUC staff update, Jennifer.
Thanks, Tina. The only thing I have to just call out is because we had so many proceedings open at the same time, I created a website on the 911 program. I created a new webpage to track them all. So going forward, all of our proceedings will be listed there with timeline on the updates so that you can easily see what the key dates are for each of them. And I have that linked on the standing report. I'll also put a link in the chat, and hopefully that will be a good resource for everybody to quickly see what proceedings are open and where they each are in their timelines. And I will answer questions if anybody has any.
Thanks, Jennifer. BESP report, Lumen.
This is Tressa. This was kind of thrown together late for me yesterday afternoon, so I don't have anything. I'm totally blind, and I'm so sorry. I'm here, but I don't have anything at all to provide.
Okay, that's okay. Does anybody have any questions they would like her to take back? And Tressa, we can get together after the meeting if you'd like to chat.
Okay.
Let me know.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course. BSP report from Intrado.
This is Ryan Segersey. Nice to meet you all. No updates from Intrado today. And on the BESP report, and just to let the group know, Mary Staples, that typically joins with representation from Intrado, is retiring, and going forward, I'll be joining in her stead.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Welcome. Does anybody have any questions for him? Okay, on to the bylaws committee. I don't think Kimberly was with us, but does anybody have any questions or any additional items for the bylaws committee?
Kimberly passed on to me. She didn't have anything additional to add.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Haley. Legislative committee, Jackie Louise.
Happy New Year. Good morning. I was a slacker again and didn't get a written report. I apologize. The plaques that were given by NENA, the NENA APCO chapter, have been presented to both Representative Leader and Senator Gonzalez. They were both very appreciative. We have a new draft of the 911 abuse bill, and it will be put into the legislative committee initiatives link. And this morning I also received a couple of bills that will be put on our agenda to chat about on Monday. We have a meeting on Monday. We do keep notes on those meetings, so if there's any questions that you want to go back to, you could always check the notes or contact me. Our next meeting is Monday, and I look forward to talking to all of you. The two bills that I got this morning, One was in reference to the address confidentiality, but we're not on it. However, we do know that there will be something coming later. And the other one was on the public alerts that we will need to read through. I will also get those in the legislative initiative link so that we can all read them before Monday's meeting.
Anybody have any questions for Jackie? Great, thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
On to 988 report. Okay, does anybody have any questions they'd like us to pass on? Okay. Equal Access Committee? Anybody have any questions for Holly or the committee? All right, on to Outage Committee. Don't really have anything else besides we've got currently 8 active investigations going on that the commission is working on, or that Daryl is working on. I know we've got a couple of meetings come up to get some questions answered, so we'll provide some updates on those when we have those. And I know Daryl's not here today. So we'll move on to Prepaid and Collections Committee, Jackie.
I'm up again. We did have a meeting yesterday afternoon, and we were talking about collections from VoIP MLTS. And there seems to be some lack in our PUC rules that don't give them exact directions on how to remit, and so they're kind of remitting the way they want to. And so the committee will be taking up looking at possibilities of putting in rules that might help them and help us manage the remittance on VoIP MLTS remittance. And we do have another meeting scheduled in April.
Great, thanks, Jackie. Anybody have any questions for Prepaid and Collections Committee? Okay, I did see that Tim Kunkelman joined. Do you have any updates from Lumen, Tim?
Hey, sorry about that. My apologies, having some technical difficulties this morning. No, I don't think I have anything for the group today. Thank you, though.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Tim or Lumen? Okay, EZNet Users Group, Kathy.
Good morning. I do not have anything to add.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. Any questions for Kathy or the EZNet group? Okay, GIS Committee, Matt.
No change. Thanks.
Any questions for Matt? All right, Colorado Public Safety Broadband update, Kristen. All right, PSCS, Vinny, do you have anything extra to add?
I do not.
Okay. Let's see. Statewide Interoperability Coordinator, Amanda, I know you're giving a presentation this morning, but do you have anything additional for your update?
Good morning. I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Amanda? All right, moving on to Division of Fire Prevention and Control, Connie.
Nothing to add. Meeting is next week.
Okay, thank you. Colorado 911 Resource Center update. Connie, again, anything else on that one besides what's in there already?
No, nothing else.
Okay. And then on to Rapid SOS, Karen or Sam?
Nothing additional, thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Anybody have any questions for Rapid SOS? All right. Colorado Training Standards Institute update, CJ. Anybody have any questions for the training standards group? All right. CCOA update.
Nothing additional.
Thanks, Haley. I think that is our last one.
That's the end.
Okay. Amanda, do you want to have us continue with our meeting and then we can start your presentation at 11 since we went through those so quickly?
I believe we can start early. I think Jeremy Johnson's on the line. So if he's okay with starting now, we can go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here and willing.
Okay, we will go ahead. Amanda, who was our SWIC, and Jeremy from CISA are going to go ahead and do the presentation this morning. The floor is all your guys's.
Amanda, are you able to share my slides?
Are you able to? Because I'm actually in 2 meetings and I don't have
Give
them.
me 1 second to try. I'm stuck in the web browser view and not really able to use the full functionality. So I'm not sure if I can. Hold on. Let me see. Give me 1 second.
Jeremy, if you have trouble, you can send them to me and I can share as well.
It says it's let me. Can you see them? Let me make them.
I can see them.
Okay, excellent. So just for everybody's background, I'm Jeremy Johnson. I'm the Emergency Communications Coordinator for Region 8. My primary states are Colorado, Wyoming, and South Dakota. So what I wanted to do today and what Amanda asked me to cover is a little bit about what technical assistance is. Technical assistance comes out of our Interoperable Communications Technical Assistance Program, which is ICTAP is what we call it. I'm going to use a lot of acronyms, so I apologize in advance. That comes out of the Emergency Communications Division at CISA, so ECD at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. So I'm just going to give you a high level, a little bit about what I do, and then a little bit more of the technical assistance, and really try and show you what is out there and what options you have and how to take advantage of those options. So high level, this is just kind of what we're looking at. Numbers wise, so you can see, over almost $700,000 emergency calls will be made, arrests, fires, patients transported by EMS. So you can imagine there's some taxing on the public safety communications, both incoming and outgoing. This is the infrastructure of concern that we pay attention to. So we have these 300,000 cell sites and radio sites, the 50,000 different radio systems we're trying to help with and improve and update, and 6,000 public safety answering points. And that's between the 56 states and territories, including Washington, D.C. And here's the problem. The interoperability challenge is what we're trying to fix, and why we have these technical assistance offerings is because there's different technology, different jurisdictions use different combinations. Each vendor has their own proprietary stuff that you have to work with and try and put together and make sure that they can talk to each other. Just for recency effect, the Southern California fires is a good example. Colorado's already got at least one unit going that I'm aware of. It may have more, but there's Nevada, Arizona, California, Northern California, and others all responding, and they all have to be able to talk to each other or they cannot affect a proper response. So we want to make sure that however we can do this and do planning ahead of time to make sure that we have interoperability. Oops. So it's more than just the technology too. So we focus from my side of the house on governance, SOPs, SOGs, and FOGs, because the field operating guides and the standard operating procedures, they all kind of need to align and be managed going forward. Technology, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the big pieces too. There's also the training exercise. So we do, some of our technical assistance has a lot of training and exercise options that we try to, because we don't necessarily have as many or as large disasters as some parts of the country do. So we have to use training and exercise as an opportunity to get people up. And then that's where the usage comes in. So when we have planned events, Recency effect again, Western Stock Show. Are we planned and ready for that? And we obviously are. It's something Colorado does every year, so it's not anything new, but we need that, use that as an opportunity to test some of our technology and training and exercise, make sure that we're all on the same page. So this is just a very big graphic. I include it in the slides because if Amanda doesn't share it, I'll share it, but it shows you the entire ecosystem between what we have to do. And this is, when I say we, I mean the public safety communications community. There's a lot there. I'm not going to go through all of it because I think I got another, well, no, I don't. But one of the things I want to make sure that we understand in emergency communications, it's not just dispatch. It's, are you talking to the people, like radio broadcasts and stuff like that? You can see kind of there on the bottom. Are you talking, basically evacuate if you need to because of a wildfire? Are you talking government to government, meaning county government to county government to state government, city government to county government, et cetera? And then are you making sure that your own people can talk to themselves within the given area? So in the fire description, are all the fire companies capable? I don't care how you fit that together, but are they all capable of talking to each other? So that's one of the things we try to address with interoperability up from our side. So you can see citizen 2 is another issue that is, can I locate my mom and make sure that she's evacuated and safe, or do I need to take some action myself? So here's kind of our approach. There's the nationwide one, and that's kind of our problem at our national level. The headquarters kind of takes that on with the Emergency Communications Division. And then that breaks down to the regional directors. So I'm actually with IOD, which is the Integrated Operations Division, with the Region 8 in Colorado. I'm actually one of the ones that actually gets to go into the office. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing from your perspective, but I get to go in and talk to my regional director and coordinate how we're going to do communications in response and in planning. And then there's obviously the working with the state and territory. And this is where I work a lot with Amanda. Amanda's the SWIC, and her and I will talk and go through the technical assistance, which you'll see under the agency piece, technical assistance. We want to get down at this point, start reaching further down than just the state. A lot of states are pretty good shape. I will not call the ones that aren't, but there's a lot that are in good shape, and we want to start to reach down further within the state to hit the locals, territories, and tribal pieces to expand our offerings and see what we can fit. So this kind of gives you what we do and how we plan it. You see in the middle there is the SWIC, most important part of this whole thing. This does not operate without her. But then you have the government structure, which in Colorado is the PSCS, and you can see all the pieces that go into that governance. And then we take from the governance, and in this case, we just fairly recently completed the statewide communications interoperability plan, which then goes into this, the SCIP, and that's what that is. With that, we put that together and start to identify within the technical assistance catalog, which I'll address a little bit more in a minute, find out what can come from this catalog that will feed the SCIP in the plan to achieve the goals that were decided by the governance body. And then every August, we do an assessment. Did we improve things? Did we not? Did something slip because we were too focused on something else? And then take that information back to the governance body to see if we need to refocus our priorities. So I have this slide here because I wanted to show you the immense effort that's put on the headquarters elements to come with this. It should be no surprise in some of those states why they're much, much higher up. I think the one that's coming out, I don't have the latest from last year's fiscal year. Colorado's going to move up a bit, as Amanda well knows. They're going to slide from, where they're at now, probably up at least 5 or 6 spots, which is a good thing. Now, the reason I also wanted to show this is to level set expectations. So for one, I don't know how familiar everyone is with the federal government. We are in what's called continuing resolution, which means we have a finite budget that we have to wait for Congress to actually pass something. So it's not something we can necessarily control. So that puts an extreme limit on us on what we can and can't do. So in all these technical assistance deliveries, I'm not necessarily the one doing them. We have contract support from down in San Diego, back in Washington, D.C. We got a team out in Texas. We got some people in South Dakota that help support the trainings and support the developments of SOPs and tick fogs and those kinds of things. So there is a limit to what we can be asked for, and I'll get to it in a second, but we've got to start to prioritize within state. But I want you to know those offerings are out there. So you can ask for it. You just may not get it on the timeline you're looking for and may not be necessarily a fit, but they're there. I just want you to know there's a limitation right now. With that limitation, what their plan is right now is the state as a whole, including all counties and agencies, have to prioritize their top 5 and provide the top 5 for April to September 31st. And those are what they're going to try and execute. Bear in mind, they do have to balance between all 56 states and territories. So they look at what the priorities are. So if it's a number 1 priority, they're going to try and hit all those first. But your second priority for one state might not trump a third priority from another state, depending on what the need and what the gap we can fill is. And that's also based on resources. You have to have the people in order to deliver these technical assistants. And if we just don't have them, it's not going to be there. But I don't say any of this to dissuade you. We want technical assistance put in. We just need to do it organized is what I'm trying to convey. So the new catalog, and I'll have the link up here in a couple slides, has a whole bunch of new features, particularly for 911 and particularly focused on cyber for 911. And those are the kinds of things that I think Amanda wants me to push towards all of you on this task force, that there are options we can start to push for and ask. The one thing, and I'm going to reiterate this a couple times, going through the SWIC, in this case, Amanda, because she can coordinate some of these things. So if one county is asking for a cyber awareness webinar and then another wants one, well, why can't we combine them? And that's where her role kind of comes in, saying, and then her and I can have a conversation. I've got 6 counties that want this webinar. What can I do? And how high the priority is that for the state? And her and I can make, help facilitate that and make that happen. So I encourage you to go out and look at the catalog. It's online. Again, the link will be up here in a second. And take a look at those offerings. One thing I will say too is just because it's not in the catalog doesn't mean it can't be done. I invite you to reach out to Amanda or myself, have the conversation for what you're looking for, and then I'll work with our headquarters team and the technical people to try and see if it's something we can solve. So I'm going to go through these next few really quick. This just kind of shows you how we base the technical offerings. Most is strategy and planning, making sure we got the skips, making sure there's governance, because it's really incumbent upon the state of Colorado to choose what they want to do and where they want to go. And that governance body leads to the skip, which leads to the strategic stakeholder relationships we need to do. And then we do the outreach, education, support, implementation, et cetera. Smaller portion is some of the operations and preparedness. We do identify training offerings. Most of them are COMU based, but there are others. We try and prioritize and select those as well. And like I mentioned before, we do customize support. So if you have a certain training you want done that may not be in the catalog yet, because we have a couple that are on the back burner right now that are going to come in the next iteration of the catalog, but it doesn't mean we can't deliver them now, which is why I say, reach out and talk with us. And of course, I would be remiss if I don't promote priority services. If you don't have GITS, WPS, TSP, look into them. If you don't know what those are, please reach out to me and I can do a whole separate brief on those and get you informed. We also, if you're not aware, have a dialer in both the Google and iPhone and all those. You can pull the PTS dialer down, plug in all your information. It will link to your contacts and make using those services much, much quicker. And then here's the last part of kind of what we do and things that we're concerned with. So in an event of emergency, we do support the FEMA REC. We support any SSE and SEER events. So right now, one of the big pushes is World Cup. Not here in this region and not within this state yet, although we are identified as a candidate state for not for hosting a team, not hosting a game. So we're doing some pre-planning with some of that stuff on our side so they can carry it down to the states. Some of my colleagues in different parts of the country have been ad nauseum working on that kind of stuff for these kinds of events to make sure that you have foreign nationals coming into your area of responsibility, that they're not bringing equipment that doesn't comply with what you've already got set up. And those are the things that we can assist with. And obviously providing situation awareness and response, and then we can do direct support to the state. And I will tell you, this is not official doctrine. I've been on a lot of response events across the country. I've never been a response event where we do not offer lower down the political stratosphere to counties or cities for help from us. We will send someone. We've got a whole cadre of people that know how to do emergency response and can plug any gaps you think you're seeing or may not be familiar with. So here's the big one, next steps. That link right there is all the ICTAP resources, again, in interoperable communications, technical assistance program, and statewide communications interoperability plan resources. If you go there, you can see the whole catalog. I encourage you to go and look through it. They've tried to make the index of it a little bit better and literally just put 911 at the front, which might help you decide which ones you actually need to look through, because there are a lot in that catalog and it's way too much to digest at once. If I didn't have to look at it every day, I wouldn't, but I do. Again, reiterating, work with the SWIC. You need to work through Amanda, because she has to come up with the priorities for the state overall. And my belly button to the state is Amanda, to make sure that we are prioritizing what the bigger need is. But by working through her, like I said, we can start to combine some stuff. There might be a training offering in person, like CompT training, and Amanda is the one who's going to be able to coordinate, maybe 4 neighboring counties who needs CompT training or wants a refresher, so that we can fill out that class. And I will tell you, the prioritization from the national level is if we can fill the class out, it takes a priority over some of our smaller or less populated states that can't fill out a class. So that's something to consider when you're looking through the catalog as well. And then, as I mentioned, there's a whole bunch of other offerings and capabilities. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Protective Security Advisor Program or the Cybersecurity Advisor Program. They're on the CISA website as well. So if you go to CISA.gov, they will be there, and you can look at what they offer. And Amanda and I would be the belly button for that as well, because like I said, I sit in the office with the entire chiefs of each of those disciplines, and I can go and ping questions, ask them what we can do, what's in the realm of responsibility. There are people out in the field, so they're not all Denver based in the region, even though that's the headquarters for the region. We have individuals in all 6 states and multiple individuals. There's 5 or 6 per state with different discipline, knowledge, and capability. So I think coming through me for whatever your question is, I'll find the right person. I may not be the right person, but I'll find that individual. So before I go on, are there any questions, or have I overwhelmed everyone? Amanda, did I miss anything?
No, you pretty well covered it. Thank you, Jeremy. And I just wanted to add on to what he was saying. If anyone has any questions about the TA program, you can reach out to either one of us. If you want to request a TA, just shoot me an email or give me a call, and I can definitely put one in. And I just sent the TA catalog to Jennifer, if she can send it out to the group.
This is Jennifer. I'm happy to send that out to the group, and I really appreciate you guys presenting. I was curious, do you see any high-level needs from your viewpoint that we should be aware of or looking at prioritizing?
Cybersecurity. Unfortunately, not unfortunately. Fortunately, we're increasing capabilities within the 911 center of influence, but it's also exposing things to cyber incidents. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Curry County, Oregon, but a lot of their public safety stuff got hit really hard with a cyber attack and a ransomware attack, and it disabled them. And they had a really good SOP and a really good plan. Guess where they kept it? On the network that got ransomware. So they had to start from complete scratch. And it's to say that they stopped processing arrests. They stopped processing death certificates and birth certificates because they did not have the systems to do it, because they were not cybersecurity clear. Now, I realize in smaller counties, it's a staffing problem. You might just not have the IT staff to do consistent updates. And we get that. And that's not necessarily what we specifically push to do, but we can at least give you some highlights on what that is and making sure that the staff is properly trained on what not to do. And then in the event of something like this, like, one thing I always say is somewhere in the PSAP or 911 center or in the EOC, make sure you got at least one binder of all the relevant information you might need should your system go down.
Perfect.
The other, yes.
Oh, keep
and
going.
The other one I will throw, the other one I was going to throw out there is if you're not familiar with PACE planning, that's primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency steps. Start thinking about those as well. What happens if your dispatch radios go down? How are you going to communicate out? Do you switch to cell phones? Cell phones go out, then what do you switch? Do you get a runner with a piece of paper that runs out to tell a cop what to do? Do you go drop down to line of sight radio communications and just start to think about what happens if something breaks? And I know most of you have that pretty good, but start thinking beyond the second option and look at the third and fourth option. And there's a whole separate brief I can give on that later. If this task force would like that, I can go into that in detail. Ask Amanda, and she can get me queued up.
Thanks, Jeremy and Amanda. Oh, Joseph, go ahead.
Yeah, are you willing to share your slide deck for those who want it?
Yep, I already sent it to Amanda, and if I need to send it to someone else, you're more than welcome. There's very little notes in the bottom section, so most of what I shared is verbal. But I don't care if the slide deck gets out there. And if you want to ping me, my name or my email address is right there. If you want to shoot me directly, I can hit you up immediately.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy. Does anybody else have any questions for Jeremy or Amanda?
I would just like to say thank you for this opportunity. Please feel free to reach out to me at any point, and I'll figure out how I can help.
Great. Thank you so much. That's great information. All right. Jennifer, did you have anything else before we move on to old business?
I do not.
Okay, perfect. The only thing we have under old business. Oh, did somebody have something? Okay. The only thing we have under old business is, I know in November a discussion was had regarding what requirements exist for a PSAP, for somebody to stand up a new PSAP in Colorado. I think the discussion was a little bit around, there's not a whole lot of guidance in place. Do we want to propose a rule change, a tariff language change? We just wanted to keep this on the agenda to kind of move the discussion forward. Does anybody have any thoughts about that? Suggestions on what we should do moving forward?
This is Jennifer. I will call on Daryl a little bit. We did have some further discussion, I think, at the EZNet users group, and I was not at yesterday's EZNet users group meeting. So if Kathy has something to add to this, go ahead and feel free to chime in, Kathy. I guess I'll stop there and see if there was any other discussion at the EZNet users group before I go on.
This is Daryl. There was not at yesterday's EZNet users group. Kathy wasn't able to make it either, so I was a pinch hitter and ran the meeting for her. But that topic did not come up yesterday on the EZNet users group. But I have been looking at our rules. I think our current rules get close to what we need already. Specifically, I was not ready to pull up the rules right now. Let me do that real quick. There is a rule, it's not in the 911 section, but it's in a section about N11 services, which 911 is an N11 service that requires any entity that wants to provide N11 services to file a petition with the commission for approval to provide those services. So I think we're close to what we need already, with potentially some additions that tie that section to the 911 section, stating to make it clear that 911 is one of those services and that entities wishing to provide 911 service that have not previously done so need to file a petition with the commission to do so. And I will have this to you in just a moment.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no problem. 2742 is the rule, if anybody wants to look it up. But it requires specifically that entities submit a petition for use of an abbreviated dialing code, which 911 is considered one of the abbreviated dialing codes according to that section, established by the commission. And it goes over what has to be included in that petition, which I think covers a lot of the things that we would want to know, such as staffing expectations, letters of support from stakeholders. And the nice thing about that process is that because it's a petition, it would be noticed to the public, which would allow other 911 entities to weigh in if they see an issue with an entity becoming a 911 center. One thing that this does not do, this would address who can become a PSAP. It does not address who can become a 911 authority. But we did take a look at the language on what a governing body is. And thank you to Matt Gage for helping with some of the research on that. There is language in the statute about governing bodies needing to be essentially designated as having authority by local subdivisions of the state. So I don't know if anybody has any questions with my clear as mud explanation, but I can prepare to give something a little more coherent next time. I didn't know this was going to be on the agenda today.
Thanks, Daryl. I think that sounds good. If you want to just put something together, we can make sure it's on the next meeting agenda.
All right.
Does anybody have any other questions or feedback? Tracy, go ahead.
Hi, Tina. I just put my question in the chat, which was I didn't want to lose sight of an open issue, which is Greg Brooks' question at the November task force meeting. And I was just curious when and where that topic was going to be addressed. It's really the add-on services for the EZNet.
Jennifer, since I wasn't at the November meeting, or maybe Kathy, do you guys have information on adding that to the agenda?
This is Jennifer. I am happy to add that to the agenda and we can have that conversation today if we want to, or we can add it to, I couldn't remember if we were going to have the conversation at the EZNet users group or at this meeting and at the task force. So subject to chair's approval, we can definitely add that to the agenda here and continue that conversation here. It's up to you.
And this is Kathy. I think when we had that discussion, if I remember correctly, we did say that we thought it would be better in this group than the EZNet users group. But I'm open to having it in that group as well.
And just FYI, if the discussion is going to be around the merits of the current tariff proposal on new services, I will need to step out. So just let me know if that's where the direction is going to go.
Tracy, go ahead.
Well, maybe we can postpone this to the March task force meeting because it wasn't on the agenda and folks may be interested in it who didn't see it on the agenda and aren't necessarily prepared to participate in that discussion.
Yep, I think that's a good idea. I wasn't at that discussion, so I don't know what the exact conversation was around, so I can get with Jennifer and talk about that, and then we'll make sure that it is on the next agenda, if that's okay. Joseph?
Just wondering what the scope of that discussion is, and why it would be this proceeding rather than the ESINet users group.
I think it would be helpful. I see Greg is in the meeting. Greg, do you want to reiterate your question?
Sure. Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, it was just when I saw the additional items that were coming on that Lumen wanted to add to their tariff. I was just asking, you know, at what point do we say it's not basic emergency services, right? Because to become a BESP is quite a challenge in Colorado. And where is that? And we know ECATS has been added, right, as a item for a tariff, which is not basic emergency services, right? And I was just asking, where does it stop? Does call handling get included? And, you know, selfishly, I don't want GIS to be included, right? Because that's what I do. But that was kind of my question. And since next gen core services, I guess you could say, is it basic, right? I'm trying to look up the definition on the PUC right now. What's the definition of basic service? Does it include next gen core services? So that was kind of where I was going with it.
Perfect. And just as a background, specifically with ECATS, I think the EZNet users group asked for ECATS because they wanted something more robust than the reporting that quote unquote came with the BES, the basic emergency service, that with the EZNet. So they had asked for that specifically because the basic reporting wasn't sufficient for the PSAP's needs.
Joseph, did you have something else?
Nope.
Okay. Jackie?
Yeah, you know, I think this is a really valuable discussion to have, but I also think that when we have these discussions, we do need to take in consideration of what we're purchasing. Is it going to be a statewide rollout or not? Because currently the only way in Colorado to purchase anything statewide and roll it out is through the tariff. So, you know, maybe in the future, the enterprise board could do something differently, but I just think that we need to keep that in mind when we're discussing this, because as far as things that need to be on a statewide basis, i.e. 911 GIS routing through 911. Sorry, I can't talk this morning. But anyway, when we're talking about those items that absolutely need to be statewide, we really need to keep in mind, how do we purchase things completely statewide? Thanks.
Thanks, Jackie. Daryl?
So was it Greg who asked the question?
Yes, sir.
So the brief version of the definition of basic emergency service is the aggregation, routing, and transport of 911 calls from the ingress to the 911 network, in our case, the EZNet, to the demarcation point with the PSAP, or in some cases, a demarcation point with the local governing body, which then transmits the call the rest of the way to the PSAP. Because the commission only has authority over basic emergency service, we can only include things that are deemed to be part of that aggregation, routing, and transport. Because ECATS counts calls that are being routed to the PSAP through that process, that was the logic of ECATS being included, as well as the fact that the original EZNet tariff included a data reporting system, a call number reporting system that ECATS was seen as the next evolution to. And nobody challenged it in that tariff proceeding. I would not feel comfortable saying what could be included as basic emergency service in future tariffs or not, because that's not my call to make. What happens when CenturyLink files a tariff, if they include a new service, then that becomes an adjudicated proceeding, because somebody will protest just in order to get a more robust look at the tariff offering and the pricing. And if someone wanted to come forward and say, hey, we don't think this is appropriate to be in the BES tariff, we don't think this is part of basic emergency service under the commission's definition and what's in the definition that's in the statute, then it would be up to the judge and the commission to make that determination as to whether they think that service does or does not qualify as part of basic emergency service. So I hope that answers your question. And as far as whether GIS would be included, I think it probably depends on what kind of GIS you're talking about and what that GIS is being used for. If it's part of the routing, transport, and the routing and transport of 911 calls, then potentially it could be. But again, that would be up to the judge and the commission to decide.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Daryl. Matt?
Thank you. I think two things. One, another piece of history would be that, if I remember this correctly, the task force and/or the EZNet users group asked CenturyLink to begin working on adding these things to the tariff as groups. The second thing would be that if a service is added to the tariff, then it can be covered by the state 911 surcharge instead of our local emergency telephone charges revenues. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Tracy?
Yeah, I would just ask that this be on the March agenda for the task force meeting for further discussion. And if it relates to issues that commission staff has to step out or not partake in, obviously we can address it at that time. But this is a good substantive conversation to have. And I think it needs to be noticed on an agenda so that those who are interested can participate. But you know, so for example, the current tariff offering that Matt just mentioned, that the EZNet user group raised the text to 911 and those issues, there may be a lot of change between January and March as to what that proposed tariff looks like. I don't know that for sure, but I don't want to lose the dynamic of the ability to have a discussion. And if the choice is to have it at this level, with this group, I just would love to see it on a future task force meeting agenda.
Yep, I agree, Tracy. We'll make sure that it's on the March's meeting agenda for discussion. And that'll also give people a little bit more time to gather their thoughts so we can have a full discussion in addition to the things that were brought up today. Joseph?
Yeah, I had understood that the purpose of the ESINet users group was to have a forum to discuss these specific issues, such as what services should be included in the tariff, in the ESINet tariff. And as Daryl said, you know, some of the issues that people have concerns really wouldn't be resolved through that group, but through the commission's processes. That's all I got.
Okay, thanks, Joseph. Does anybody have anything else on this topic? Like I said, we'll make sure that it's on the March's agenda officially, and then we can discuss it further then. Okay. Does anybody have any other old business items before we move on to new business? Okay, the first items for new business, we do have 2 vacant positions on the task force. We need to fill our vice chair and our secretary position. Regarding the vice chair, this is just a reminder that any voting member can be the vice chair, who would then, of course, move to chair next year. I can tell you from experience, this is not a big time requirement. So do I have any volunteers or nominations for the vice chair position? Well, I'll give you a few minutes to decide to volunteer yourself, but we'll talk about the secretary position. So I think historically the secretary position has been held by the 911 program manager, but that does not have to be the case. Jennifer did express interest in continuing on in the role. But I did want to ask if we have anybody else who was interested in the secretary position. Hey, and Jennifer, you're still interested in continuing?
I am happy to continue serving as secretary.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jennifer. And the vice chair, who would like to volunteer or nominate for that?
So I've put up the list of voting members.
I think the bylaws say if nobody volunteers, we get to pick somebody at random from the list.
Doesn't the computer have like a randomizer that you can run through the list? And it stops on something.
Tina and Jennifer, this is Jody. I'm not volunteering, but I just wanted to reiterate that it is not a very time-consuming position, and having sat in the chair position and vice chair position for the short time that I did, it's fulfilling. And I just wanted to say thanks to all of you. Thanks to those of you who reached out to me while I was out. So, but don't be scared. It's a good opportunity, and I enjoyed it while I was able to hold the positions.
Thanks, Jody.
Tina, this is Kathy. I'm interested in the vice chair. I just need to see what's going to happen with the EZNet users group, because we're up for a new chair and a new vice chair there as well. However, if it's not that time consuming and it needs to be filled, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, I appreciate that, Kathy. It's really not time consuming at all. I think the only time I spent is Jennifer and I have a 10 or 15 minute meeting right before the meeting because there's some things that I need her to help me with. So it's
Okay.
really.
All right. Well, that sounds fine for me. And I'm sorry, I got to jump off for an 11 o'clock call, but then I'll be back after that.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. I really appreciate it. Jennifer, since neither of those positions are contested, then we're good moving forward with those two.
I think calling for a vote for ayes and nays would probably be beneficial.
Okay, can I do them together?
Yeah.
Okay.
So call for a motion.
Yep. Can I get a motion to show Jennifer serving as our secretary and Kathy Rayleigh showing as our vice president of the Colorado State Task Force? I'll signify by saying aye.
This is Carl. I'll make the aye. There we go. Carl's making the motion.
Oh, thank you.
Add seconds.
Thank you. All in favor, show by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
We do have a few other vacant positions we have that we need to fill. We have our at-large and our ILEC position. Those were both vacant from the November meeting. Do we have any volunteers or nominations for those two?
This is Jennifer. So at-large position is really, as it says, it's a community at-large. So anybody who desires can serve as an at-large member. The ILEC position, it needs to be a representative from an ILEC, which we don't have that many of. So at-large is going to be the easier one to fill if anybody is interested in serving as a voting member in that position.
No takers for the at-large or the ILEC?
This is Tim Kunkelman. Can I ask a clarification on the ILEC? Is this the second ILEC spot? Or is this Jeff Winkleman's spot?
No, I believe it's the second one, isn't it, Jennifer?
Yeah, it's the second one that was previously held by Darla Joseph.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Jennifer, we just leave those open until we get volunteers or nominations?
Yes, and I'll make it a standing agenda item until they're filled.
Okay. If anybody on the call has anybody in mind, or if you share this with your partners, please just let them know to reach out to myself and Jennifer if they're interested, so we don't have to keep it on our agenda every single meeting.
This is Matt. So NNTC did not attend regularly, so my recommendation would be that we not reach out to them again after a couple of elections gone by. But Viaero used to be very good about attending. I wonder if someone knows the Viaero folks.
Yeah, this is Ryan.
Isn't Viaero already represented as a
Are they?
wireless?
As a wireless.
Yeah, they're in the wireless category.
I wonder if we should reach out to the Colorado Telecom Association, which represents a number of the rural LECs, and see if they would want to have somebody.
Yep, I can absolutely reach out to them, Daryl. Maybe we can get some new participation on the board.
Do they have a consolidated group of sorts?
Yeah, they have the rural LECs have an association, the Colorado Telephone Association, so they might have somebody from the association, or ask if any of their members would like to volunteer.
Okay.
Tina, you're muted, sorry.
Dang it. Daryl, can you send me the contact information for that group and I'll reach out to them?
Will do.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next two. So we have Travis Freeman, and then Jeff Streeter, who's actually being changed out for Kyle Mickelson. We need to revote them based on attendance that didn't favor the bylaws. So I think, Jennifer, we just need a vote on that one for
Yes.
Travis and Kyle.
Both indicated that they wanted to continue as voting members, so this group just needs to reaffirm that or vote against as at the pleasure of the voting members.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to allow Travis Freeman and Kyle Mickelson to remain on the Colorado State 911 Task Force.
Jeff Irvin, so moved.
Jeff Winkleman, second.
Alrighty, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign? Great. Thanks, Travis and Kyle. Welcome to the Colorado State Task Force. Next item on the agenda is our locations for our in-person task force meetings. Do we have anybody? So we're looking for, I believe, May, July, and September locations. Would anybody like to volunteer to host the May meeting?
Jeff Com will host for May.
Great. Thank you, Kyle. What about July?
Anybody on the western side of the state? It's a great time to, July is the best time to host on the west side of the state.
This is Carl. We'd be willing to host.
Great. Thanks, Carl. And I think our last one is September.
We could probably host down in El Paso Teller for September.
Okay, great. Thanks, Renee. I appreciate it. Next item on the agenda.
Sorry, Tina, Jeff Irvin's got his hand up.
Jeff, go ahead. Sorry.
And just a question for Kyle. Will you guys be hosting in your new building, Kyle?
Yes, sir. We're planning on starting operations here fully next month, so we'll be good to go by May.
And that's 440 Indiana for those that don't know.
That's correct. And I was going to get with Tina to make sure that was distributed as well.
Great.
Perfect. Congrats on the new building, Kyle. It's exciting. All right. So we've got a couple positions on the Colorado 911 Resource Board that we need to appoint members to. I know the three people were Andrew Dameron, Jeff Winkleman, and Jeff Irvin. I know Jeff Irvin shared that he would like to continue on the board. Andrew and Jeff Winkleman, would you guys like to continue in your positions?
I would as well. Yes.
I would as well.
Okay, thanks to both of you. Is there anybody else that would like to be considered for those appointments? Okay, and Jennifer, since those are appointed, we don't need to vote on those.
Yeah, I think the chair and the vice chair can make the appointments, but you can call for a vote if you want to.
No, that's okay. We will just go ahead and show Andrew Dameron, Jeff Winkleman, and Jeff Irvin reappointed to the Colorado 911 Resource Center Board.
This is Daryl. I think traditionally we have done a vote for it. Since it's not contested, I'm not sure if it's necessary, but if you want to just call for a motion and see if anybody opposes.
This is Matt. I would make a motion by acclamation since it's uncontested. For appointment by acclamation.
Carl will second.
Okay. Any opposed? Great. Thanks, Matt and Carl. Matt, did you have something else?
Yeah. Can we go back to perhaps considering a nomination for the at-large position?
Absolutely.
Okay, then I would like to I'd like to nominate Michael Berry, Summit 911 Director.
Is he on the meeting?
I am. This is Carl. I would second that if Michael's okay with it.
I am. Thank you both.
Great. Hold on just a second. Sorry. Okay, I will entertain a motion to show Michael Berry as in our at-large position.
This is Matt, so moved.
And a second.
Carl will second.
All in favor by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Perfect. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Matt, for nominating him. The last two items on our agenda, Jennifer, Smart Act report.
I just want to let everybody know that the SMART Act report to the legislature is scheduled for today upon adjournment. This is the verbal issuance or provision of the report that we issued in September to the General Assembly. So the report's already been written and released last September, but Daryl will be providing it today to the legislature because last minute they asked for an in-person delivery and I could not accommodate that. So thank you, Daryl, for pinch hitting. And he's going to put a link to that in the chat. So if you want to watch online, you can see that as well. But just wanted to let everybody know that it was going on today. Thanks, Daryl. And thanks for standing in for me.
No problem. Thank you for writing the presentation, at least the first draft of it. I did want to let everyone know it's going to be very short this year. They have a lot of presentations and they're doing them on the same day as the governor's State of the State address, which is taking place right now. So they're trying to get through them very quickly. So they've asked me to cut it down. I think I've got like 6 slides. It's going to be very high level, but it will be there. And if I can figure out how to get a recording of just our portion of it, I'll make that available as well, and we'll probably even put it on the task force's YouTube page.
What time is that?
It is when the governor is done with his address and when they get seated in the room. The
Okay.
time is upon adjournment, and there's a couple of things ahead of us on the agenda, so I cannot give you a specific time.
Thanks, Daryl. Jennifer, our next agenda, periodic task reports to the commission.
Thanks, Tina. So the Colorado 911 PUC Advisory Task Force is in existence partially to advise the commission on all things 911. And in the past, that has been achieved by filing periodic reports to the commission. And by filing, I mean writing the report and then filing it in a proceeding that's open specifically for reports to the commission. And this is the way that the commission becomes officially aware of activities pertaining to the task force. In the past, that's been done by Daryl and then myself writing those reports and then submitting them to the task force for approval or revisions. I'm happy to continue doing that, but I also would like to make sure that if the task force desires to take that on and write it themselves, then that would be beneficial as well. And also to ask the task force if the task force still wants to continue to file those reports. We did not file one in November. It's not, Daryl might correct me here, but it's my understanding it's not a requirement, but if you want the commissioners to have an official notice of task force activities, then that report is one way to do it. And I will pause for Daryl to add.
Yes, so Jennifer's correct. There is no requirement in the rules that the task force do a report. It's something we started several years ago at my suggestion, because the purpose of the task force is to advise the commission, and there was really no communication back towards the commission from the task force at that time. But over the last year, I've been thinking about how we do that, and the fact that commission staff is supposed to facilitate the task force, not run the task force or speak on behalf of the task force. So having us write the report, sometimes we would get some feedback from a couple of the members, sometimes we wouldn't. So it was more or less commission staff's report to the commission on what the task force was doing, which I'm not sure is entirely appropriate. So that's why I suggested that we bring this back to the task force, see if somebody else wanted to take on that role of writing those reports, or at least writing the first draft for the rest of the task force to provide input into, or if the task force no longer wishes to continue those reports, since it is not a required activity.
Joseph, go ahead.
It seems to me for a number of years we were filing an annual report and not reports during the year. And at one point we're having one filed by the task force that I think was prepared by the chair, who kind of led getting that done, and then also one by the resource center. And I don't know that we need to have two reports, but it seems to me that one annual report should be sufficient.
And Joe, you are correct. It's been a number of years. I think Kimberly was the last one to write an annual report from the task force. But that is certainly something that the task force could choose to do going forward as well.
Matt, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm grateful for the administrative support that's being provided by the 911 program, and I would support continued first drafting of any such reports, whether they be quarterly, annual, one or the other, whatever it may be that the group decides, and then opportunity for we, the stakeholders, to review and suggest edits to that first draft, and then the task force performing approval for its report, if you will. I have kind of often wondered about having, and I agree with the report to the task force as showing advisory communication. But for a long time, I think we also had a report from the commission to the task force. Is that right, Daryl?
I don't recall that unless it was before my time.
I'll have to go back and look through my notes.
I
mean, there was a report from PUC staff, but we kind of do that as part of the standing reports now.
That must be what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, but we did try and have a commissioner attend one meeting a year, and at times we have had commissioners attend the meetings.
And with the written reports that we were submitting, which was 3 times a year, by the way, so we were doing it every other task force meeting, which worked out to 3 times a year, once every 4 months. At the end of those written reports, we always let the commissioners know that they are welcome to attend and to let us know if they want to attend. And unfortunately, they never have. And when those get filed in the repository proceeding for the task force, I also send a copy to each of the individual commissioners to make sure that they see it. But I cannot tell you whether or not they're reading those or not.
Yeah, Francis.
But they are in the public record.
Attended.
I'm sorry, Joe.
Francis Concea attended one of the meetings. I think it was during her last year on the commission. But we also, at one time, were scheduling meetings at the PUC. I can't afford parking downtown anymore, so I don't want that. But
I can't either, and I work here.
Yeah, so maybe if we can, if we're having a meeting somewhere, that they would want to be convenient for them to travel to, that would, we could make a specific invitation.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any thoughts or feedback on what we should do moving forward?
Do we have any feel for whether they find the reports useful or not?
Jeff, I have no feedback on that. The reports get filed, and as I said, I also send a copy individually. Jennifer's would do that going forward to the commissioners, but it is very rare that they ever ask any questions or provide any feedback on that. So I don't.
So my recommendation would be that we cut it down to once a year, and we perhaps invite them to attend at the meeting we're going to have at JeffCon in May.
Does anybody else have any thoughts or feelings about doing it once a year?
Sounds good to me.
As far as who drafts it, I don't mind doing that. If the group thinks it's more appropriate for the secretary to do that, versus having the title of PUC staff, it's just semantics at that point, I think. But I don't really have a preference either way. Does anybody else have thoughts?
I'm sure Daryl would like one less thing to do.
Oh, that'd be me now.
Or
I
Judge
don't mind
Wolfer, I'm
though.
sorry.
Yeah, I can delegate.
Well, the assistant chair doesn't have a specific job, does she?
Vice chair.
Vice chair.
Oh, well, she's in the waiting room. Do we want to wait until we make a decision before I admit her?
I was going to suggest that it could be a joint effort between commission staff and the chair and vice chair of the task force. That way it's a group effort.
I think that sounds good, Daryl, because then it removes any weirdness with it being commission staff alone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we will provide the report once a year. Are we going to do that at the end of the year? Like every December? When you guys were doing it once a year before, Daryl, is that when you provided it?
That was back when I was still with the Resource Center, but my recollection is that it was at the end of the year, but I kind of like Jeff's suggestion that maybe it be done in one of the summer months because it'll be easier for them to attend a meeting in person.
Okay,
If they
so
wanted to, if we can get them to come.
we can still offer it in July.
Yeah.
Does the report have to be the same month as they would be invited to attend?
I think that would be most appropriate, but it doesn't have to be.
Matt?
Also, I don't see why it can't be a report written during the first quarter about the prior year and then considered for approval at the next task force meeting.
So if we keep that cadence, then we would need to draft the report and have it ready for approval at the March meeting. Because I think Jeff proposed that we issue an invitation to attend the meeting in May at JeffCom, at which you could then present the report.
Is that too quick of a turnaround, Jennifer?
Not for me. The question is it too quick a turnaround for you and Kathy?
I don't want to speak for Kathy, but not for me.
Sorry, I joined just a couple of minutes ago. What are we talking about?
Well, you almost got volunteered for the whole thing. So, you know.
Of course.
Kathy, we're talking
did my
about
best.
providing a once a year task force report to the commission that we would write, you and I would write together with PUC staff to present to them at one of our summer meetings.
Okay.
So we would need to have it finished by our March meeting to present in May at JeffCom, like Daryl said, if we can get the commission to attend in this shorter notice.
Okay, so we'd basically have, I think I caught what Matt said, we'd have January, February, March to get the previous year's report ready for May, correct? Okay.
Correct. Well, we would need to present it in March for the task force to review.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think that works. Thanks for explaining.
Right after we told Kathy that there was very little to do in this position.
That's what happens.
Exactly.
You volunteer and then, oh, surprise.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's okay.
But
It's not,
but
it'll work.
staff can do the majority of the work. I didn't feel comfortable with us being the only ones writing the first draft. And then sometimes we would get feedback from some of the members and sometimes we wouldn't. Because this really needs to be a report from the task force, not from commission staff facilitating the task force.
I agree. Thanks,
So
Daryl.
I think this will work out well. I think this is a good solution.
Anything else on that, Jennifer? Do you need anything else?
Nope. Sounds
Okay,
like a
perfect.
plan.
Any other new business items that are not on the agenda? Okay, just a couple things before we adjourn. We have a lunch and learn on February 13th. Jennifer, what is first two?
I'm going to stop sharing so I can pull up my plan here. But first two, this is the copy that they sent me. So if it sounds like a commercial, I apologize. First two is an intelligence platform that visualizes data to assist responders in the performance of their duty, used by dispatch, 911, patrol, investigators, etc. The live presentation will focus on how 911 anywhere in Colorado can use first two as soon as the presentation is over.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so that is thanks, Jennifer. That's our lunch and learn on February 13th. And then our next task force meeting is March 13th, and that will be virtual. Before I adjourn, does anybody have anything for the good of the order? Great. Thanks, everybody. Show adjourned at 11:27. Have a great day.
Happy New Year, everyone. Take care.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Happy
Yeah,
New
we
Year.
definitely, there's definitely
Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye.